This is Conan Chop Chop, a very strange rogue-like experience where you create various weapons and attempt to survive and do this over and over and over again. So be sure to like the video, subscribing's great as well. So this is, like I said, a bit of a strange title. It doesn't seem like there's any real intense optimizations here, so it should be getting just like 1080p at 60 FPS. So nothing too necessarily thrilling, but also something that is fairly fun and engaging to play. So what makes this so intriguing is the fact that this is a cooperative experience where you can play with 4 players locally, or also 4 players online, with lobbies being present for you to jump into and enjoy. So that is kinda cool. So you're basically doing a roguelike series of missions across these different environments, and you will be able to get new weapons, tools, and have new challenges. There's 4 distinct characters that you kind of level up and improve with skills, and you have this balance of gameplay where you are blocking, slicing, attacking, and using magicka in order to get the job done. It might seem simple, but it actually is quite hardcore, and it will require you to play multiple times over in order to actually, well, basically get the job done and survive. And then there's like these challenge type dungeon areas you end up going to as you progress in levels, and it's definitely not really easy, and it doesn't really give you a whole lot of like upgrades, if that makes sense. The big thing you're kind of working towards is like leveling, and then those kind of carry forward, but like, you know, sort of things that you gather, like gear and whatnot, you have to constantly get like new things, so there's different variations every time. One time I had like a chicken that was fighting with me. Chicken Conan was very helpful. It was like following me around, slash and hack and stuff. It was kind of neat. You get different weapons, different shields, different charms that grant bonuses. There's all kinds of different stuff in here. And while it seems simple, it's actually kind of complex. Now, I would have liked a little bit more of a sense of like progression. With these types of games, it can get a little, you know, almost tiring, where it's like, oh, I'm not really advancing, or I'm dying a lot, and it's frustrating to deal with. You know, you might find that to be present here, because it is kind of a difficult game. It's not really something that holds your hand. You actually really have to hope for the best, that is for sure. And then there's lots of like little things you can gather and buy, so you can get coins to be able to buy things from shops. There's also these gemstones that can be used at the beginning of the round to get like a weapon or a different tool. So there is actually some complexity to these systems. These are some of the charms, like, you know, invulnerable. You can have so many of them at a time. Things like that. You got your ultimate ability, you've got keys that will open hidden chests. You could choose kind of how you go through the world, and with it being like a roguelike, it's basically each of these areas that you go to is sort of entirely different. Like each run, the things that you come across will be completely unique. You know, it's going to be like, this area will be different from this area. The layout is always different. It's actually kind of refreshing how different the unique locations you end up going to actually are in this spot, because it doesn't feel like you're just doing the same run over and over again. There's actually like a sense of, hey, you know, this area is different. It does feel a little repetitive with the enemies after a while, as you continue to like sort of come across the same foes over and over again, you know, within areas. But it does have like a really neat visual style, and it's kind of funny because you don't think of it as being like Conan, because it's like a little quirky like aesthetic, but no, it definitely does, I feel, fit into the whole Conan universe. It's just got like a little bit of a sillier sort of vibe to it, which I actually kind of appreciate. It's sort of just like a fun style that I was not expecting, because again, this was something that was announced a long time ago, so I'm surprised it actually took so long to release at this point, because it's not necessarily, to me, something that seems like it's a massively ambitious project, but at the same time it does have quite a lot going on. I'm saving my Ultra, if you're wondering. I've got this red glow, so that's something you can kind of unleash, but I wanted to save the Ultra for like a more demanding scenario. You know, you might come across like a bit of a boss fight area, or you might come across the hardcore dungeon. So it's kind of like a, use at the right moment sort of thing. You also have more than just a hack and slash. You can drop a bomb, you just saw that. And then there's also your bow and arrow option, so you can shoot your bow and arrow. I sort of use just the sword, and I do like a right stick sort of slash. You can actually do like a hold down thing. So then you die, and then you level up a bit, you get an extra skill point, and then you keep going. So you could do the quick retry, you could switch to a different soldier, or, well, warrior if you'd like to, because they have different, like, quirks and styles to them. It does load decently fast. I would say, like, this is not too bad for the loading, which is nice, but, yeah, that's kind of the real gist of it, is you sort of die, then you redo the area, and you go back again. Meal restores health to the entire party, which would be good if I was playing with an entire party. Like, again, like, having a full squad, I think offers a lot of extra help. I think that can make a big difference when you're playing. Oh, we can start with one meat. That sounds very helpful. You know, actually having a team there with you, I think, makes all the difference, which is kind of nice. Getting a squad together, I think you could have a lot more fun with this than you would just kind of going at it by yourself. So keep that in mind, that you might have more fun teaming up than you would having a shot at it, just going in and basically dying a bunch. Because that's what these types of games are, right? You go in, you hope to slowly improve and be able to take things out and, you know, kind of hone your skills and your talents across the different areas. And there's a few different biome sections that you can jump into and eventually end up going to, which is kind of cool. But I think the couch co-op angle to it is kind of the real fun thing. And it's just got these, like, really simple sort of environments, right? These little sections where you are kind of moving almost in, like, a preset old school type of environment world. But it does work, you know, it does actually kind of create a neat roguelike experience. It's definitely something a little bit different. So I'd say I like the visuals. They are a little simple, though. Like, I felt like, you know, this seems like something that would scale across devices, which is probably what they're after, but yeah, I mean, it does look relatively sharp, which is nice, and it does seem like it's quite fluid, but yeah, I definitely could have used something a little bit more intensive. I don't know, maybe the grass moving or something. It just seems kind of like minimal for no reason other than just kind of being minimal. So it is fun, you know? It is something where I'm like kind of working through the challenge of it, but it's just also at the same time I'm like, I'm not really feeling a whole lot of intense progression going on. I'm just kind of sitting here doing the same areas, dying a bunch. It is much easier when you have a whole little squad coming together, but when you're doing solo, it's just like, oh. Yeah, definitely takes a bit more effort, that's for sure. Let's go into this gold area. I feel like I don't use the bow enough, but at the same time I feel like just slicing is much easier. Gems. Ooh, I love his little jump down though. It's like, ooh. So that means we have to go through this spooky area. And like I said, you never know what's going to come, but you'll get some familiar areas. It does actually, honestly, seem quite varied to me. Just because you're always visiting different spots. It hasn't felt as though, you know, I've done the same layout, and I've died, like, many times. It does take quite a while to sort of level up, but the chop stuff's fun. It seems like there's a decent variety of enemies too. They have like different moves to them, different threats to you. It's really kind of like straightforward gameplay wise, you know what I mean? Like you come in, you go, you die, you fight a bunch, you hope you survive, you hope you get to do a new area, you take on the different enemies, eventually you go to more of an intense dungeon area, and that's kind of the gist of it, really. It doesn't really get more in-depth past that, but I do want to again mention that like there are pretty good systems here gameplay-wise where you're, you know, kind of getting these different builds that can actually make a big difference to your ability to get your job done. And if you get the right combo kind of going on, you can actually go really far and do quite well. Like I was saying there, you know, I had my chicken pal, and I had this other sort of charm thing that was really, really good for my character. Like, it was making it so I could do lots of damage. I think one of them, at one time, I had like a floating sword around me too, which was kind of nice. So it really depends on what kind of class scenario you get. It can make like all the difference between a good run and a bad run, and I think that's kind of neat. So we're just gonna have more kind of gameplay of it, I guess you could say. You know, I don't really have anything else to go over it, so it's pretty straightforward of what it is. So you're either gonna find this to be intriguing or kind of find it to be like a little bit annoying. It really depends on the type of individual you are and if you like these sort of games, but it's got a strangely good amount of like polish to it, and it does strangely also fit into the whole Conan type of universe, but you know, maybe a little bit easier going and less focused on like the violent angles that you would know Conan for, and some of the other adult aspects that Conan usually provides, which I don't mind in this type of game. It fits. It really does. It fits.
Need a bomb first! Need a bomb first! Need a bomb first!